All right, so membership of the House. And um, there's some real basics that you need to know about this section. And then there's some really, really detailed stuff that we're going to get into that some consider to be one of the biggest problems with our government. Look, you guys, we have these beautiful governing documents with these beautiful Enlightenment ideals, and they've never truly come into fruition. We've never truly seen the ideals in our government. And each, year, each decade, each generation, we see our country getting closer to reaching these ideals. But today, we're going to talk about one of the ways that simply is not. Um, it kind of, we have issues we have to fix as a country. All right, so we're starting off here. We're saying members of the House are elected every 2 years. They must be 25. They must live in the state that elects them, and they usually live in the district that elects them. Okay, so bottom line, they're 25. Okay, and you have to live in the state. Now, usually, right, like the guy we chose, Brad Sherman. I don't mean me, but I mean we as a district. He lives in our area, right? Most of the time, you're not going to vote for a guy who lives in downtown to represent the valley, or the opposite, a guy who represents the valley or the downtown. He won't probably live in the valley. He probably, I mean, theoretically he could, but that's not normal. Why would you want that? We could have a guy who lives in San Francisco represent us, but that doesn't really happen. Um, So those are the real basics. Now, every 10 years, there's a census. We had a census this year. I filled my census out online, but the guy, the census will send people out door to door, knocking on doors to try and count people who haven't filled it out online. This happened to me in 2010. I hadn't filled mine out, and the guy came to my door and he knocked on it, and I answered it. And he said, who lives here? And in 2010, it was just me. And this year, the guy knocked on my door too, but it wasn't even for me. It was for my neighbors next door who apparently hadn't answered the survey. And he asked, who lives there? I said, oh, it's a family of six, it's mom, dad, 4 kids, and here's their names. And he wrote it down. So they keep track of the population every 10 years. You can go back and look at census figures from the 1700s. They've been doing this. You can find out the names of the people who lived in which cities during the 1780s and 1790s. It can be really interesting if your family's been here for a while. One branch of my family has been here for a while, and you can find some of their names on founding documents in cities in Massachusetts in the 1700s. So we take the census, and then they use the census to figure out, to reapportion. And that means to figure out, okay, well, last time we said California had 55 representatives and Wyoming had 1 based on population. What about this time? Did any states gain seats in the House? Did any states lose seats in the House? So we'll see. So we have the census, and at some point here, they'll count up the number of people in each state, they'll make it official, and then they'll reapportion seats. They'll say, okay, well, next, for the next time, California is only getting 54, maybe, or maybe we gained in population. There's a map picture on 135. You can see the certain states have been going up and certain states have been going down. Maybe we're 53 now, not 55, excuse me. So that happens every few years. Now, here's where we get into what some people would consider to be one of the biggest flaws in our government. And they say it makes the House of Representatives unfair, this idea of gerrymandering. So if you have a 60-40 state, right, you could draw straight lines and say, oh, okay, well, look, in the districts, it seems like the 60% is going to get more people. Or you can draw the lines of a district in a way so that actually the red gets more people, but there's only 40%. How is that? And really what's happening is that people at the state level are deciding who votes for them. They're saying, oh, well, I want you to include, Topanga all the way over to DeSoto for my district, and then up to Chatsworth, but don't get above Chatsworth. I don't want those Hills people. I want you get to actually choose who votes for you. And what they're doing is they're choosing oftentimes based on like race. Um, Let me show you some examples of this. I think it's really important to understand because there are ways, like we have computers, right? We can enter in a algorithm and we can have them just a computer draw lines and make it fair and equal. Like, oh, hey, look, this is how we're going to divide the straight lines. It doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter how you vote. We're just going to let the computer draw the lines and decide what the districts are. But look, here in North Carolina, look at this district. Look at that, like one block here. This is actually a district, congressional district. Why aren't there square line? Why is this District 4 eating into District 2? Okay, if you look here, you see other examples in other states of these districts. They're not done in a way. This is in Chicago. Look at that. This district, it cuts around Oak Park. Okay, it cuts around this part of Chicago, and it's only on the outskirts. Why is that? Well, because the person who's the representative from this district, he wants these people to vote for him, and he doesn't want these people to vote for him. That should not be legal in our country. We should not have a system where you get to choose who votes for you. This should all be done with basic algorithms and population centers. And okay, well, if each district is 600,000 people, then here's a square of 600,000 people, or a circle, or a rectangle. It shouldn't ever look like this. Some people would suggest. Other people say no. It's interesting fact about gerrymandering. It was originally done for to get minority representation. They said, oh, we're in some areas of our country, we're a 60-40 split. These are largely areas in the South. And they say, well, white people are 60% and black people are 40%. And in order to get any black representation, we need to find a way to group them more together. But ever since then, it's kind of really gotten out of control to the point where we're seeing districts that aren't even squares or rectangles, or they're not even shapes that we can identify. There's no name to them. One block here, one block there included, other blocks there and there not included. And really what's happening is that these people will never be voted out because they get to choose who votes for them. So again, this is considered by many to be one of the bigger problems in our government today. And it's up to future generations to decide if they want to try and fix these problems or if they don't see them as a problem. If they say, this is great, you should be able to decide who votes for you. What's wrong with that? Why can't I have only my friends vote for me?